Naeemah, welcome to Good Morning SKN.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here co-hosting. I want to thank Jamie. Thank you very much for letting me have your seat for this special segment and giving way to the ladies today. We honor you.
We do.
So, imagine a world free of bias, stereotypes, and discrimination. A world that's diverse, equitable, and inclusive. A world where difference is valued and celebrated. As you all know, today is International Women's Day. This day is a worldwide commemoration of the cultural, political, and socioeconomic achievements of women. The United Nations theme for this year's observance is Gender Equality Today for a Sustainable Tomorrow. This brings attention to issues such as gender equality, reproductive rights, and violence and abuse against women, while facilitating strides towards gender equality. The campaign theme is making waves on social media and shows women posting photos of themselves making the X. Everybody knows the X. Yay! And demonstrating the sign, breaking the bias.
In recognition of this day, Good Morning SKN has the pleasure of speaking with a group of dynamic women here in St. Kitts.
Senator Dr. Joyelle Clarke of the St. Kitts and Nevis Labour Party and a climate, gender, and youth empowerment activist. We also welcome Dawne Williams, a financial services professional who's currently working with the Bank of Nevis Limited and with its acquisition of RBC, RBTT in St. Kitts and Nevis. We also have with us the lovely Reine Gumbs, engineer at the Public Works Department and a leader in a profession that is still very much male-dominated. And last but definitely not least, we have Dr. Merissa Grant-Tate, a consultant oncologist in the oncology unit at the Joseph N. France General Hospital. She also manages her private practice, WellPoint Medical and Oncology Center. History was made here that she was the very first female oncologist in St. Kitts and Nevis. So ladies, welcome.
Welcome.
And welcome to the panel. We're happy to have you.
The mission for this year's International Women's Day is breaking the bias. With respect to your particular fields of expertise, what does this mean to you, ladies?
Well, for me, it's about ensuring the unfair treatment of women in the financial services world is broken.
Okay, nice. How about you, Lorraine? I know a lot of people see you sometimes at Public Works. I don't even think people really know what you do. I don't even think they realize that you are an engineer. So, like, how do you feel about breaking the bias, particularly in your field?
In terms of in the workplace itself, I was greeted with open arms as an engineer.
Wonderful. Okay. And Marissa, our very first oncologist in the medical field. We do have a lot of women in the medical field, but we do not have your first oncologist. What made you specialize and break that bias?
Well, to be quite honest, it really came down to the fact that I would say I truly wanted to create my own path.
Yes.
I did have what was a greater affinity towards perhaps pediatrics. And Dr. Jacobs, God bless his soul, I would say that he had personally handpicked me to, be able to follow in that path. But I definitely wanted to be able to create, what would have been a positive impact. And definitely we had what was the void in respect to the care of our cancer patients. And so that drove me towards oncology.
Very nice. Okay. So would any of you be willing to give us some insight then on your opinion of the professional progression of women over the past decades in all fields?
Because I could start here.
Yes.
I think globally, only about 3 countries have a 50-50 ratio of men to women in parliament. And as a senator, I'm here rallying for not just more women in parliament in St. Kitts and Nevis, but for us to actually see our first prime minister, and I think a female prime minister. I'm not saying that I'm going to be that person.
I was going to say, you might be that person.
Who knows? But the thing is, we'll support whoever it is, regardless of which side it comes from, because it's something that women must embrace. But, of course, what we really, really want is that when women enter politics, it's not tokenism. It's not, let's put a woman just because. challenges is everybody understanding that women can function really well in government and in politics. And we saw it even with COVID-19, with the countries who managed COVID-19 the best were led by women. So I'm here for women in politics and in highest levels, including our first female prime minister.
Okay.
I think I'll go next because in my world, it's pretty dominated by men. But I would say, and it's by design actually, because when I joined that world, and I wouldn't say how long ago, men had different contracts to women. They had different benefits. As a matter of fact, if you were a woman, married or not, and you had a baby, you had to resign and then try to re-enter. But I would tell you, we have come a long way. And I stand proudly today because here in St. Kitts Nevis, we have gender parity when it comes to the financial services. And just allow me to give you what I mean. The deputy governor of the central bank, a woman.
Yes.
The person in charge of the Financial Services Regulatory Commission, a woman.
Okay.
The person in charge of the Republic Bank, a woman. The person in charge of First Caribbean International Bank, a woman. The person in charge of Bank of Nevis St. Kitts, a woman. You have the person in charge of the Caribbean Credit Confederation of Credit Unions, CEO, a woman. So there you have it. We have our women leading in the financial services. In St. Kitts Nevis, globally, it's edging up, but still a long way to go. So I say here in St. Kitts, we are really breaking the bias when it comes to leading the financial services world.
Thank you for sharing that. That was actually, I never, some things I think we often take for granted. You're all very accomplished women in your respective professions. So we've got the medical sciences, we've got business, we've got education, we've got politics, we've got engineering and science, of course. For the most part, what do you feel as women that you bring to the job that has a unique perspective that brings something special and unique to the workplace? I know often we say, we're always talking about how women, a woman can do anything a man can do. Yes, as if our goal is to be able to do it as well as a man can do it. And I think often we don't honor really what we uniquely as women bring to any position. Can you speak to that?
I think as a woman in my profession, I'm around so many men, what I've brought most is empathy and compassion to the workers. I find in society we view people more like, oh, they're just a laborer, they're just, but then I have brought that, it doesn't matter what you are or what path you're taking, we are all part of the team, and we have empathy and sympathy and compassion, and listen to them, no matter whether they're fellow engineer or just a laborer.
That's wonderful, particularly important during COVID.
Yes.
Where a lot of people have really been affected.
I think intersectionality is just a big word for women can understand several layers of experiences.
Yes.
You're a woman, you're black, you're young, or you're middle-aged, or you're elderly, you're tall, you're short, you're rural, you're vulnerable, but we have these layers that we have to function with whenever we enter our workspace. And it's the recognition that I'm not just presenting myself as a woman, I'm presenting myself as a black woman, or a young woman, or an LGBTQ plus person. And you bring these layers of this intersectionality to the workplace, and you're able to, as was said by our engineer, you can feel compassion, you can feel empathy for people because you understand their varied experiences. That's something that's missing in more masculine experiences, but it's something that we can treasure as women, that we can understand people from various angles.
Nice, okay.
I think we bring that innate skill set to the workplace.
Yeah, soft skills that are not often recognized, but are really needed.
So, Dr. Grant-Tate, would you agree?
Oh, definitely. And apart from that, too, I'd have to say that ordinarily these are otherwise characteristics that are sometimes considered to be disadvantages. You know, as women, we are seen to be inferior as a result of what would be our emotional, you know, components. We are seen to be sometimes inferior as a result of, you know, or rather have what may be some form of intellectual inferiority, just based on the fact that we are women. And I think that when you have powerful women who are able to step up into what are the obvious roles, you know, that we have been able to occupy, that helps to dispel much of this. And so definitely I would say that in many different ways we are able to bring, you know, different values that are perhaps not ordinarily seen. And yes, it is of great value.
Good stuff. So ladies, my question to you, has the proverbial glass ceiling been cracked? That is of course in terms of the male-dominated professions.
Shattered.
I know, I saw you
many times over.
We've seen your post with your daughter with
Thank
her
you.
crown that the future is female. So
Definitely.
how do you really feel that the proverbial, has it been cracked? Is the future female?
Many times over.
Shattered.
Many times over. Whether it is that or not, as to whether it is that it's truly acknowledged, that is perhaps different. But the fact is, everyday women are shattering that glass barrier, that glass ceiling. And so definitely, many times over.
Nice.
Yeah, I will agree it's shattered, but I still think it's not yet broken.
Yes. It's cracked.
Yes, and until we get to the point where it's totally broken, there's a lot to be done.
Yes,
There's still
we
some work
have
to be
work
done.
do.
Yeah.
So how would you say we can get there?
Well, I think it's forums like these.
Okay.
And there are these organizations that really promote gender parity.
Yes.
And I think more women need to align themselves to those organizations, and so that they can really be inspired to inspire other women to become, you know, free from that glass ceiling and really break. And shattering is one thing, but breaking through is where we need to get. And I don't know where we are.
I agree completely with what you said, because this glass ceiling was set by men, right? And we're here as women, and they pit us against each other. So it's so difficult for us to climb and shatter and really break that ceiling until we work together and until we support each other in institutions like BPW and CWIL and every other organization which supports women's empowerment. We're going to be looking at that glass ceiling and all the cracks and seeing one woman slipping through when we need to break it open so everybody can just move through the glass ceiling.
Rights for all.
Yes, for all. I'm glad you brought that up. I do represent CWIL as the vice chair on CWIL, and people are always, for those who don't know, it's the Caribbean Institute for Women in Leadership, and it's women from all political parties. And every time we speak, people are shocked to see us actually working together. Do you feel like women sometimes we are our own worst enemy, or just that the narrative is that women are against each other, and that in itself is a bias that we face?
We have all these historical antecedents pitting women against each other. And then I think our doctor can confirm that we've moved in medical history from you have an issue, you're emotional, you're having a breakdown, and you're just seen as weak and feeble. But we have progressed to the point where we recognize that being emotional isn't a disadvantage.
Exactly.
It's just being human, right? But we must be able to, that's what I said, let me be clear. I would like the first female prime minister to be from the St.Kitts Labour Party.
Absolutely.
But if the first prime minister comes from another party,
Right there.
We'll take that too.
I'm going to support
We will support
that
it, yes.
position, recognizing that it's paving the way for the next female prime minister to be from the St.Kitts Labour Party. That's the approach we need to take to breaking that ceiling. Support each other on the way up.
Yes.
Definitely. So I want to know, do women still have to prove themselves in their profession, or even when studying, training for what is considered a male-dominated field? What are some of the challenges you ladies face, or you witness others face, when entertaining a field that is traditionally seen
as one for men?
I think one of the things that perhaps is most greatly underestimated would be our endurance as women. I think that generally when we set out to on whatever, you know, our career path may be, we are often expected to fall along the way. And one of the things that is definitely unexpected and that I'm always so very proud to witness is to look and see how just exactly how well we endure as women. And I think that obviously, you know, that is perhaps one of our greatest strengths. Once it is that you know, there is the possibility or even the simplest scope in terms of being marginalized, and then being able to not only endure but also to definitely persevere beyond that. So I think that that is one of the things that I would like to.
Okay. I have a follow-up for you, Marissa, because for those who don't know, you're one of our very first teen mothers that returned back to school. So I was so honored when I saw the picture with you and your daughter. Like, people don't know about your own endurance. What advice would you give for young women on the same stream that you're speaking of now in terms of enduring?
To be quite honest, I think that, and I always say, and it not because of the fact, by no means am I trying to promote or give the idea that teenage pregnancy is the way to go. But I always say to myself, and I say to those close to me as well, that to be quite fair, I think that perhaps it may have been one of the greatest things to have occurred to me, for the mere fact that what it allowed me to do was to be able to lose what was that sense of consciousness in respect to what the world or what people thought about me. And once you're able to rid yourself of what is that burden, then you are literally able to conquer and just push through just about anything. And so I would say to women, perhaps not only those who have gone through or find themselves in a similar situation, but even those who are not and, you know, may find themselves in whatever situation that may be difficult, to simply forget about what the world may think, forget about what, you know, characterization or what stamp may be put on you, and just truly concentrate and focus on what it is that you want to do, and push through. That is really what I would say.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to respond to that question?
Sure, I would. I would.
I love when we have a voice. Use your voices, we have a voice, yes.
My first 3 months in Parliament were particularly interesting. And I'll say this because I think when I made my first speech in Parliament, it was well received. However, there were men who were like, oh, she read the speech she was given. Oh, somebody told her to say that. And I kept delivering, and for months they were like, did this person write that speech for you? To the point where I decided I'm taking my laptop to Parliament and I'm writing my speech in Parliament while those men spoke. And I had to take it even further. I got up and I said to the speaker, which is a man and very supportive, and I said to him, I'm really disappointed that the men in this Parliament would think that I can't write my speeches. Is it because I'm a female? Because I do have a PhD and I've been writing speeches for very long. And it really answers the question of, do you have to show up more when you're a woman? We ask for a seat at the table. We're given a seat at the table, and then we have to work 10 times harder. So I always tell my young females, listen, because I'm pro youth empowerment. When you get that seat at the table, spread out. Take up space and leave some room for another woman to come with you, because you're going to have to work 10 times harder to prove that you are valuable. And I take it even further. When I'm there at the table and we're having a discussion, don't look at me. I'm not writing any notes. I'm not the secretary here. I'm not following up on anything. We are going to do this together. And this is just proving your worth when you're there. You're not there just because you're a woman. You have value.
I'll tell you about some experiences I've had, because I broke this glass ceiling very young. So I was the only woman with a bunch of executive men, and we did a lot of traveling together. And you see, the other thing is, my name is Dawne with an E. And it's often thought that I'm Dwayne. So they get the hotel booking, and as far as they're concerned, it's Dawne Williams. So I turn up at the hotel with a group of men, and they'll say, oh, Mr. Black, is Mrs. Black joining you? Because I'm Mrs. Black. So I'm either the wife or the secretary. Never an equal with my colleagues, my executive colleagues. So women are frowned upon when they rise with men and walk shoulder to shoulder with men. So, I thought I needed to share that experience because that's what women go through when they're there. When they are the token woman.
And they're the token woman. Yes, why we have to make space for other women. Which brings another issue. As women, do you find, some of you are mothers in among this group, do you find as women that has been, I know people often see when they see a mother, like, well, where would she find time? So when you were just talking about traveling, they'll say if the men are traveling, they'll never say, oh, I wonder who's taking care of his children. But if you're a traveler, like, her children must really be suffering. She is always on the road. Oh, she went off to study. I wonder what happened to her children. How do you feel about the sacrifice that women have to make in general when it comes to childbearing and the attitudes towards that in the workplace?
I'll let someone else take that.
Well, for me, I don't have any kids. I love kids, but I don't think I envision them for me to be a mother, a biological mother.
Right.
But what gets me most is when people would look at me and be like, when are you going to have kids? When are you going to have? And I don't hear them asking the other younger engineers, when are you going to have kids? Do you even want kids? And it's when I bring up the topic of I'm not even sure if I want kids, and people will be like, I mean, you don't want kids? It's like, it's not accepted for a woman to not have kids, but it's accepted for a man to not have and not want.
Nice.
It's like they see you still as a mother, and not a career woman, an engineer, fellow engineer.
Yeah, you could have a lot of accomplishments, and it's like, but you're not a mother, so you haven't actually achieved anything, as if it's the only accomplishment that
you should have.
I'm not the gender bias.
No, exactly. They don't ask you, I mean, where do you see yourself in your career? Nothing is always, so when you're going to have a baby?
I agree so much because I also don't have children yet. I'm a mother by association, and I believe that you can adopt, you can take care of other people's children, and I love doing that. I saw this study which said, if you're an executive in an office and you're a female, don't put photos of your children in your office because they're gonna think that you can't take your mind off your children. But if you're a man in the same position, plaster your office with pictures of your family because they're going to think that you're a good provider. And the world is set for women to always suffer for being a woman. And we have to fight against this. And I hope women don't ask you when you're going to have kids.
Because yes, they do.
Right. And
women do.
Yes.
That we are so abrasive when it comes to fertility issues, our decisions not to be defined by having a child. And that's part of the reason why I insist, not because it took me 10 years and lots of student loan debt, that I insist that I be called Dr. Clarke and not Miss Clarke, because I don't want to be defined by the fact that I'm married or unmarried, and which also is linked to whether or not I have children. So if you just call me Dr. Clarke, it's fine. And it forces men in particular to recognize and accept that, hey, I worked hard for something, I'm very proud, I pushed through in a very male-dominated field, geography, geology, and I want to be defined by this particular title, not by my marital status.
And one of the things I'll tell you I found is that once you excel as a woman, they think it's because you're neither married or have kids. Because you can't do both. But I'm here to say I did both. I'm a proud mother, a proud grandmother, and a proud executive. And they can all coexist. Yes. And I think, that's one of the things about women that we bring to the workplace that men can never do.
Nice.
Because, I'm a single mother. I raised my son outside of St. Kitts without any help. And I was doing it whilst climbing the corporate ladder. And I did both well. I guess based on the outcome, I can probably say I did both well.
I think you did that. I think you've accomplished this. I don't think anyone can take your flowers.
It shows what a woman can do.
Yes.
It shows what.
Getting goosebumps over here.
So, as women, well, you did touch on it. We can have it all.
We can have
So we can have it all. So is International Women's Day necessary?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And can you explain to us why you think it is?
It gives us a voice for those voiceless women.
Okay, got you.
And it brings attention to the fact that more women need to shatter, break through that glass ceiling. Mash it up.
Yes.
Mash it up. Because I think women and girls go about their business and they don't realize they have no purpose. So I think forums like this bring a sense of purpose to them and their lives. And I hope that there are very many women and girls listening who can benefit from forums such as these. So yes, we still need to have International Women's Day, and we still have to work towards breaking that bias.
I noticed when we had some discussions, we've been having a lot of discussions this week coming up to International Women's Day, and I've been in some where women are saying, well, you know, this breaking the bias, it doesn't really apply to us in the Caribbean. Oh, that's a North American thing or a Middle Eastern thing. Or can you speak to the ways that you personally, professionally, even in your observation, could identify ways that we don't necessarily see bias in society, but it is bias in society?
I want to give an example very quickly of the women who work on the road. You know, we where do they use the bathroom? Right?
That is a good question. Yes.
I have another question.
Yes.
When you go to a lady's room, is it equipped for a lady if she's having a period?
It is not.
Exactly. But who makes those decisions?
Yes.
And until we have more ladies in the boardroom and at the top executive level, where decisions like these are being made, will never be thought of.
Will never be thought of, yes. Considered. I think sometimes people think it's accommodation, but it's not accommodation.
No,
it's consideration.
Should be part of the consideration.
Yes.
You're outfitting a lady's bathroom. Let us have everything ladies there.
Yeah.
See? So
it's interesting because I find even as women, we accommodate a lot, actually. And we are always considering.
Exactly.
But when it comes to considering us or accommodating us, it's always somehow a challenge. Yeah.
I guess until one of those women face, like Dr. Clarke said, you go into a meeting with all men and they don't expect you as the female to start taking the notes, then we could say we don't have that bias here in St. Kitts. But right now we do.
Yeah. That's a big bias. That's one of those biases that really bothers me. It seems like such a small thing, but it's a room full of men and everybody's like, are you
looking at your
notes?
Right.
It's like, I'm sorry, am I designated note taker? As a woman, is that a skill that comes from birth? We just grew up knowing how to take the notes and be the secretary?
exactly. They think it's a date skill.
Yes.
Unfortunately, it's not.
Yes, but I don't think I think I've only ever known one male secretary in all of the organizations that I've ever been in, which is interesting.
So, ladies, it was a very interesting discussion. I wish we would have International Women's Day every day so you ladies can come back and speak with us.